the Zanmi Beni Education Center in their presentation to Northborough Rotary Club. So a few things, given the stuff that's been happening in Haiti, people have been rightfully concerned about the unrest, with the assassination of the president and then the earthquake and tropical storm. So we got some statements from some of the for the folks from Zanmi Beni. So I've been supporting, this is Zanmi Beni, this is Laurie Newell, who you'll hear from in this presentation. I've been supporting efforts in Haiti for 17 years now through civil unrest, hurricanes, earthquakes, et cetera, and every cent that we have sent has gone directly where it needs to go and is used appropriately. That is due to the relationship and trust from partners in health, Zanmi La Santé. So Zanmi La Santé is actually the Zanmi in Haitian Creole means friend. So you'll see Zanmi Beni is blessed friends, and Zanmi La Santé is like friends in health, partners in health. So that's how Partners in Health is known in Haiti, as Zanmi La Santé. And then this is from Partners in Health, Zanmi La Santé leadership, Liz Campa. More than a week after the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse, Zanmi La Santé facilities remain open as they have been through the years of political and civil unrest, devastating hurricanes, and the current COVID-19 pandemic. In the coming weeks and months, Zanmi La Santé, Partners in Health sister organization in Haiti, will continue operating with added measures to ensure the safety of patients, staff, and the children of Zanmi Beni, all of whom are safe and have been accounted for following the most recent tragedy in Port-au-Prince. This was all before the earthquake. So now we have the earthquake. We were all shocked to wake up this morning to the news of the 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti. The earthquake struck approximately 80 miles from the Port-au-Prince and Zanmi Beni campus. We've been in touch with Loon, who you'll get to know soon, and she has confirmed the children in Zanmi Beni staff are all safe. So just to, if there are any concerns about investing in Haiti at this point, just want to kind of head that off with, Partners in Health has had a long-standing relationship in Haiti for 40 years now, since Paul Farmer went there in 1987 and 1983, sorry. It's almost 40 years now, and they will continue to do the good work that they do. All right, so sorry, so I will start now. So this is jumping into the presentation.
38 children had been abandoned in the general hospital.
Can everybody hear okay?
Prince, for all kinds of reasons. And of those children, many of them were disabled, and it was called the Abandoned Babies Unit. So actually, plans were being made to remove the children, and then the earthquake happened. And the building, as you can see to the photo to the left, was severely damaged. And the head of the hospital called Loon Viot and said, these children need to be removed. And right away, it was not a safe and appropriate place for any children to be at that time. So literally the day or two after the earthquake, Loon and Nancy Dorsonville, they went and they picked up all the children, and they found a temporary home for them while they looked for this beautiful property, which is like an oasis. It's really special.
So here's Loon Viot that Laurie referred to. You'll hear a little more about her. This is Paul Farmer. If any of you folks know Paul Farmer, of Partners in Health in Haiti fame. He's an icon in the world of public health. This is Nancy Dorsonville they referred to. So and actually it turns out that Paul had just celebrated his 50th birthday a couple months before this happened, back in 2000. And he donated the money that he had gotten from his birthday to help purchase this property. So I'm going to move on.
B now is home to 64 children and young adults, half of whom are disabled. And Zanmi Beni provides a safe, stable, nurturing environment where these children can thrive, grow, and learn. And we constantly say, we do for these children as we would do for our own. The Zanmi Beni mission is to create an environment that allows the growth and integral development of its children. We strive to address the conditions of poverty, including healthcare, housing, education, clean water, agriculture, social assistance, and job creation. It's an inclusive and family-based care model for every child, giving them the possibility of long-term relationships with adults and their peers. I want to say that the majority of the caregivers, which are called mamas and papas, have been there from the first day. We felt this was an essential ingredient to for these children to, grow with that kind of relationship and stability. We value gender equality, tolerance, dignity, respect, and most of all, love. Zanmi Beni is committed to developing on-site programs that will help create sustainability by generating income and providing self-sufficiency opportunities through job training and employment for the ZB residents and staff. The ages range, from right now, I'd say the youngest is
what,
3.
2?
Pardon me?
Miss Shama's what, 3?
I think she's about 3 now.
Yeah.
2 in their 20s. And one thing, a lot of people have difficulty understanding this, but this is their permanent home. So there's not the expectation that they're going to age out as people, let's say in foster care, do in the United States. And a lot of people will say to me, oh, okay, I understand that. So what happens when they're 18? And I always say, I know a lot of 30-year-olds that live at home. So they have that opportunity to live there and thrive, but we have the expectation that every child will be, that's able, will be a productive member of society. There are, as I said, 64 children at Zanmi Beni, where half of the children are, have physical and intellectual disabilities. And we have about 150 caregivers, which also include teachers and physical therapists and other people. Like we have a music program, and we have, as you can see, soccer, and we have someone who comes to do exercise with the children.
Here on the left, it's the newest dormitory that we had built, as well as a chapel that was constructed a number of years ago with the support of Lori and Jenny and her family. Fresh bread that we bake every day, where many of our kids are older kids and young adults are trained in baking. I've seen this bread being baked at 2 and 3 in the morning before obviously it's ready for our kids, as well as for different restaurants and hotels in the area as well. And then you'll see there are kids lining up very spiffy for school in the Zanmi Beni school bus. And then below, Samuel, I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but Samuel's my favorite. He's the one smiling, and the little boy in the yellow shirt. And then, oh my God, I'm blanking out. Lori, what's her name?
Andresia?
Andresia, thank you. Good Lord.
My dad.
And ultimately, whether it's housing, fresh bread, education, religious teachings, family, and most of all, like Lori just said, love, we ensure that the children and young adults of Zanmi Beni have everything that they need to have a fulfilling childhood and grow up to be responsible, loving adults.
I don't think we stressed enough that how important education is to meeting our goals. So from the very beginning, obviously when they were babies, the focus originally was high chairs and diapers and wipes and strollers,
formula,
and that sort of thing. And then as they got older and became school aged, they started school right away. And we hired tutors, which were really monitors, to help them with their, with their homework. It's challenging. There's a lot of kids there, and there's a lot of, every child there, even though they are really actually quite adorable and loving, but they, have all suffered trauma, some worse than others, but, they have all suffered trauma. So you never exactly know when that kind of, when that will surface. We know it will, and it will surface from time to time, but so their education, furthering the children's education, is a very, very high priority at Zanmi Beni. And in the fall of 2017, it was brought to our attention by Loon that a lot of the children, 30 children attend school, and which are all the children that are able to. In Haiti, there are no allowances for any differences. So if you are physically disabled, you can't attend school. And it was brought to our attention that many of them were not thriving academically. So they began attending a new school that was better academically, and offered very great support for the children. However, they continued to struggle. So the Friends of Zanmi Beni, we decided to do a very deep analysis of why we thought that the children were not thriving, since they've had a lot of support from the time they were little, including food security and and housing and love. One of the things, there were quite a few things that came forward, but one of the really contributing factors to their struggles was not having an appropriate place for them to do their work. So they come home and to work and to study, and they would do it outside. And so there's a lot of activity. It was very disruptive. Then you're mixing the kids who are, serious about their school and some that aren't. I mean, with that many children, you have a wide range of ability and interests, etc. So they continue to fail and, or not thrive. So it became apparent that this was really one area that needed to be addressed, was where could they do their work? Not to mention, for the last year and a half, they were not even able to leave the facility. First, due to civil unrest. And then once that it settled down, they started school again last January, and then COVID at the end of January, and then COVID struck. So they were back home. So the space was really, it was imperative that a space with programming be built. So during COVID, we worked and hired an architect, not hired, he donated his time, a Haitian American, and we built the new education center, which is in this slide on the, well, it's all of those now that I look at it. All of these pictures are the new, our new space. The plan was to build also a building to not only meet their academic needs, but that they would be smart classrooms. They were quiet spaces where we can, people can learn to study. We have Wi-Fi, and the plan also is to expand to include computers and technology so they can benefit from learning, online learning. We plan to hire tutors to support any academic deficiencies that they have, including French and English. That was one of the areas that was highlighted as an issue, because at home they speak Creole and they hadn't learned how to speak French, so it was hard to go to school in French. The project aims to be accessible and to build, so that the children who are on site are able to have their education there as well during the day when the other children are at school.
Okay, so I'll give you a break from hearing them. So if you look at this project and look at the Rotary area as a focus, it really hits, touches upon several. So disease prevention and treatment, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic and community development. The environment, we're investigating solar. That has not been fully understood yet, but we're hoping that the environment will be part of it too, if we can contribute to their solar. So how Rotary can help. So Rotary Club of Northborough's interest is in supporting the needs of Zanmi Beni's academic development. Other support will cover essential components of their education center. Right now, we're looking at things like, chairs, desks, bookshelves. That was the original budget, but once the funding becomes available, then we'll have them really take a hard look and see what is needed at the time. As Laurie had mentioned, they're looking at, computers and, so we'll contribute. However, once we know how much money we have and know the timing, we'll get into the specifics, but whatever we do will improve the academic outcomes of the children. The recipient organization is actually Friends of Zanmi Beni. So Friends of Zanmi Beni and Partners in Health are global nonprofit organizations, both based in the United States. So again, any concerns about it being a Haitian organization, the parent organizations are both in the United States. And then another aspect of our project is actually a student reading of Mountains Beyond Mountains, and a screening of the Bending the Arc documentary, both of which are based on Paul Farmer and the founding of Partners in Health. Paul Farmer will attend the screening. We're hoping. I actually met him on that last flight when I was introduced. Last time I went was January of 2020. I actually met Paul Farmer on that flight. That was pretty exciting. So this part of the project will not benefit from the grant monetarily, but Partners in Health kind of ties it all together, all of this work. So how can Rotary Club of Bedford help? If a district grant for this year has not been submitted by your club, we can add you to the grant. You don't need to submit your own district grant application, but you get credit for both participating in a district grant and an international project. If you already have a district grant, you can still choose to contribute to this project in any way that you are interested. Okay, wait. So this is now Liz, and this is just a story of one of the kids that was pretty touching. So I just wanted to share this with you.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about the story of Mika. And I have managed over the last 7 or 8 years to tell this story without always bursting into tears. So Mika came to us about 2.5, 3 months after the earthquake. And she came to us on Easter Sunday. One of our doctors who worked for Zanmi Beni Partners in Health in one of the displacement camps, because there were many, found Mika, had been given Mika, who had been found in a shoebox. So imagine she was so little and so new that she fit in a shoebox. So thankfully, he brought the Mika over to us at Zanmi Beni, knowing that she would probably be well taken care of. And for the better part of the first week or so of Mika's life, Loon and Loon's adult daughter, then teenage daughter, Maureen, actually thought she might be blind because she didn't look like she was reacting to any of this. So imagine Mika growing up to be the little girl who she is now, again, just about 11 years old. And this is one of her school pictures in the middle. And Mika, I know, again, you're not supposed to have favorites, but if you ask Loon, we know Mika is Loon's favorite. I call her Little Loon. And while I've pretty much assigned roles to all the different kids, Christopher's going to be the prime minister, and Christopher's going to be a priest. Samuel's going to be the prime minister. Mika, I'm hoping to be the minister of health because she is one powerful little girl. You have to understand that we have different groups of children. So we have the petites, or the little ones, the moyens, which are the middle children, and les grands, which is the big ones. And she's in charge of the little ones. And actually, she approached Loon some time ago with saying, Loon was having meetings with the 2 other different groups of children and their responsibilities, etc. And Mika strolls up to Loon and says, so us in the petite group, we want to have a meeting with you. We're not being taken seriously here, and we want to discuss our responsibilities here too. And Loon, of course, chuckled and was like, yes, of course, no problem. And, Loon was about to go about her day, and she's like, no, I'm serious. When are we setting up this meeting? So Mika also is in charge. Again, at 11, she has all the other kids under her reign in that sense. She will decide when people are going to dance or sing and, do plays, etc. One thing that we think about often is from a baby that we thought might be blind, who came to us in a shoebox on that Easter Sunday in 2010, to a young woman, now a young girl who is now training with the women's Haitian soccer team. Yep. She is brilliant. I don't do sports, but I will watch, and then she will take command of the field. And we hope that she, obviously She will be the Minister of Health. But, you know, in the meantime, that she gets to play soccer, which is one of her lifelong dreams, to be able to do this. So that tells you what the difference of where, you know, where you're born and where you end up, and the life that you will have ultimately. So I wanted to make sure I shared the story of Mika. And Mika is one of the younger ones, again, with Samuel and Christopher and a few others that came to us as infants. And Zanmi Beni is the only home they'll ever know. Another little tidbit of information, remember, because all of these children were abandoned at the university hospital and or came to us afterwards because their family, they didn't have families or they were abandoned, etc. None of them had birth certificates. So in a world like Haiti and in most of the world, you don't exist unless you have a birth certificate. So I'll never, ever forget. It was December 21st of 2014, almost 4 full years from the time of the earthquake. Loon had sent me to a meeting with Carrie Kennedy and some friends of ours in New York. So I wasn't there, but I know Lori was present for the baptism and naming of all these children. All of them had, it took almost 5 years, but they all had birth certificates. And the best part of it is all of their last names are Beni, B-E-N-I, which means blessed. And we know that many of our kids will probably never leave us because of their, you know, their challenges. But for the Mikas and Samuels and Christophers and so many others that will go on to become, you know, amazing members of Haitian society, they will know who they are because of their last name. And they all have Loon's birthday, which happens to be March 17th, which of course for us is St. Patrick's Day. And they all are quite lucky, so.
Okay, so that's I just wanted to sort of wrap up with the financials. So again, we had put some kind of placeholders in to the budget to get a general sense, you know, chairs, desks, bookshelves, solar, again, to be flushed out at some point for a minimum of 11,000. But again, we're working with Zanmi Beni once we have a sense for what our funding is to see what the current needs are. And then for income, our own club put in 1,500. Our Interact Club put in 500. Rotary Club of Needham pitched in a full partnership of 1,500. Newton did not have enough for the full partnership, but they put in 500 and are hoping for more after some fundraising. Wachusett is a full partner at 1,500. Marlborough actually already has their own district grant, but they wanted to contribute the 1,000 just because they were passionate about this project as well. And we're looking for some other partner clubs. So if we look at maybe a couple more partners, hoping that Bedford would be one of those. Again, hopefully a full partnership of 1,500. And then the district grant itself was 3,500, which was the maximum that they granted. So that was, we were honored by that. And then we're hoping for some, you know, fundraising individual gifts. We already are at 600, but we're hoping, you know, targeting 2,000 that would bring us to a total of $15,000 of income. So that's our sort of where we see, you know, we're hoping this will go. And we're getting there fast. So Miss Ampiel is thank you very much in Haitian Creole. This is, you know, the renderings at the beginning, and there's Loon and the groundbreaking. And this was the celebration of this big soccer field that they had put in with a lot of the kids. So we'll stop sharing unless there's anything anybody wants me to go back to. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments or?
Thank you very much, Leslie. That was very interesting to learn all about what's going on in Haiti. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
That was Christine.
Oh, I was just going to say, Leslie, this is Christine Penny. When do you think you'll get a chance to go back?
I'd be on a plane today if I could. I don't know, between COVID and then the earth, you know, so all the references in this presentation to the earthquake were obviously the 2010 earthquake. And then now there was one again on August 14th, which thankfully was far enough west of where it hit in 2010. So there wasn't the same kind of impact, but there still was a loss of life of about 3,000 people and, you know, tens of thousands of people injured and displaced. So between, you know, yeah, that's the long answer. The short answer is I don't know, but as soon as I can, I would be there. But I'm guessing it'll probably be another year or so. That makes me sad. So,
Ralph?
Yes, back in the 1990s, our club teamed up with the Worcester Club and A Hall and did a whole lot of stuff on the water projects down there. During that time, I began literacy program, and he linked me up with Chris Lowe, who was working out on Laganav. And we got her involved with the Rotary Literacy Program. The interesting part, and I was curious to see how it popped up with you, the kids all still need to learn French to go to school. 90% of the kids don't even know the French that's being taught to them in the public school system.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, on Laganav, they just said, hey, forget the French. We'll do it all our lessons in Korea, and they're just going along just fine.
Yeah, some schools do that. I mean, it's really a way of keeping the classes separate, right? I mean, you've got the common people speak Haitian Creole, even though the national language is French and Haitian Creole, but everything in Haiti, if you want to, everything's in French, anything official, all documents are in French, all contracts, everything is in French. So you send these kids, if they're fortunate enough to go to school, as Ralph said, they said in the presentation, they speak Haitian Creole at home. Some do speak French, but not many. So it's like ESL in the United States, where they go into their own school system and they can't speak. So as Ralph pointed out, some schools do teach in Haitian Creole, and then some kids are fortunate enough to learn French outside of school or through school and catch up. But it's tough.
It's cool. You go to a Rotary meeting and they all speak French in the meeting, but as soon as they get outside the parking lot, they're all chatting.
Yeah, so I did actually try to engage a couple of Rotary clubs in Haiti, Pétionville, which is right near Port-au-Prince, and one in Mirabelet, which is where Partners in Health is located, Zanmi Beni, but they were interested, but then once the earthquake struck, they're pretty focused on their own internal. So they definitely, want to keep in touch and, apprised of what's going on, but they just can't commit any financial or any kind of resources at all. So it's completely understandable.
Our club did a matching grant with the Patientville Club. They were really super to work with.
Oh, Claude Serena? Yeah, Claude's great. Well, that's great to know, Ralph.
Joanne.
It's really great that you are like a big family. It's just curious. Are you teaching or looking forward to the older children to be quote unquote mentors, big sisters, big brothers to the younger kids? So in a sense, like taking care of the younger ones, turning into professions that they will become teachers or educators or nurses so they can still stay with the family?
I honestly can't answer that, but I can hypothesize that it makes sense that they would probably do that. I think naturally, when you're in a big family, people sort of naturally, some people just are naturally caregivers anyway. But I don't know officially what their plans are with respect to that. I could certainly find out, but I think it's a natural progression, certainly within a big organization, big family. And as you said, they are a family. This is not an adoptive orphanage where this is their home, it's their permanent home. And when someone said to me, well, what if, they take on other kids or they want to take on other kids, like if any family, you decide when you're done having kids, and sometimes people change their minds, but for the most part, you're happy with your family as it is. And, so that it's an unconventional family, but it is truly a family. And Loon is the official, the official guardian of all the kids and adults at this point.
I have a question. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Do you or does this organization ever team up with other organizations over in Haiti? Like, for instance, Be Like Brit is another big organization that handles orphans, I guess, people that are homeless, children that are homeless, and they raise them up. So I'm just wondering if there's any collaboration between them.
There isn't, but actually Be Like Brit is the organization that got me started. So I've been of my 12 trips to Haiti, 11 of them have been with Be Like Brit. So yeah, I'm really familiar with Be Like Brit. No, Be Like Brit is another situation where it's a non-adoptive orphanage. It's its own, even the number is pretty similar. It's 66 kids and young adults. So yeah, I'm intimately familiar with Be Like Brit. So no, there's no collaboration because they really are in very different geographic areas and they each have their own, models. And, But so I think the partnerships with Zanmi Beni tend, because Partners in Health and Zanmi La Santé is so tied in with so many different organizations. I think most of it sort of stays in that, first of all, geographic area and sort of in that infrastructure, because there is so much infrastructure from Zanmi La Santé and Partners in Health already. It's a great question. And yeah, Be Like Brit, that's also near and dear to my heart. That's, like I said, that's what got me started. So.
Go ahead, Judy.
I'm wondering if they are continuing to get new referrals and take new children.
No, again, this is a family. So no, there are no plans to take on any other children. As I said, we all decide, we have a family. Sometimes circumstances change and we decide to add to our family. But for now, I think they're content to focus on the kids and young adults that they have. And so never say never, as we do even with our own families, I guess. But there are no plans at this point to take on more.
Anyone else?
But I can probably tell you, even with Be Like Brit, actually, it happened with Be Like Brit. There was they actually just took in a baby recently, which they don't usually do, because the government came to them and they were presented with this kid who was had a desperate situation, and they took her in. So I wouldn't say that Zanmi Beni, that could happen there as well, I would imagine. Again, no plans. Jim, I see you talking, but you're on mute.
I was talking to my wife. She just walked in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was telling her about you. I was telling her about you, Leslie.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry. Whoops.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Anybody?
Busted is the saying.
Like, oh.
I know you had another commitment, Leslie, that you wanted to get to. So
yeah, it's at 1:30, so I do have time. That's why I shifted it to like this, so I wouldn't be backed into a corner. So I do have time if you guys want me, but I'm happy to just say thank you for listening, hearing me out. And we would, be thrilled if you would partner with us in any way. Again, we're looking ideally for full partnerships just to maximize our impact on Zanmi Beni, but we would, appreciate any sort of involvement that you are interested in having. And I really appreciate your taking the time to listen. And if you have any questions that come up after this, you know where to find me.
Well, we do have a district grant ourselves this year.
Okay.
We will, I'm sure, address this with our foundation and see.
Okay.
Do you have a form and have you filled it out?
We'll talk to her about that afterwards. Yeah, we'll get you set up.
I have one small question. I was just looking online about the documentary Bending the Arc. Is that something, I know we've done other watch parties in the past, maybe something that we want to do to learn more about. It says the story of Harvard medical student Paul Farmer and, that whole part of things. And I know Leslie mentioned it in her presentation. Maybe that's something that we might want to do as part of fellowship to learn more about this.
So Bending the Arc, actually, I learned about it on that flight. And so that was January of 2020, which was pre-COVID. And it at the time was only available through screening. So I had arranged for the screening and Paul was going to come, in May of 2020. And we know how that all worked out. And then it got pushed to the fall. And well, in the meantime, last fall, it actually got released on Netflix. So it is available on Netflix. So the real draw at this point is to have Paul freaking Farmer come to Algonquin Regional High School and bless us with his presence. So I'm going to hold off until he can do it. We were hoping for this coming spring, but I'm not sure COVID is even going to allow it, but also his schedule is probably not going to allow it in the spring. So we're now looking maybe for next fall. The kids at the high school actually have integrated it, or the faculty has integrated into their curriculum. So our club donated 62 books to the school. And they are reading it, and mostly they've really woven it into a variety of curricula throughout the school. So so they were doing that so that because of the screening in the spring. So it's kind of a disappointment, and we're trying to work around that a bit. But in any event, it is available on Netflix now. It's extraordinary. I definitely, if you have Netflix, I highly recommend you watch it. It's really remarkable.
What's it called again?
Bending the Arc. Yeah, it's phenomenal. So if you watch that, you'll know why I was so starstruck by meeting Paul Farmer on the flight, hanging out with him for 4 hours, which was an honor. So